Hi guys, Amy here, also known as Hidden Treasure Picker here on YouTube. In case you're new to my channel, I'm an online reseller. I sell mainly on eBay, and I also sell a little bit on Poshmark and Mercari as well. Basically what that means is that I go to places like thrift stores and garage sales, buy items for cheap that I can resell online for a profit. Usually on my channel, I talk a lot about what kind of sales I'm making to help you guys know what kind of items to look for and things like that. Today, I wanted to do a little bit different of a video, and I wanted to talk about some shoe brands that I resell. As a lot of you know, if you have been on my channel before, shoes is one of my favorite things to source and sell. A lot of times they can be found in quite a bit of abundance. You can find them at thrift stores, you can find them at garage sales, and you can also find them at the Goodwill bins or the Goodwill outlet, which is basically where you pay for everything by the pound. That's one of my favorite ways to source shoes, just because it's one of the cheapest options, because you can get a lot of shoes for a lower dollar amount than a lot of times you can find them by buying them individually priced at the thrift stores. So today, I wanted to talk to you guys about what some of my favorite brands to look out for are. What I think are some of the best brands to sell on places like eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari. These are the type of shoes, the shoe brands that I'm pretty much always on the lookout for when I'm outsourcing. So we'll go over those, and this is probably going to be a two-part video because there's a lot of brands that I want to go over, and I don't want to make this video too long, so we're going to make it into a two-part video. So make sure after this video that you keep an eye out for part number 2, so you don't miss out on any of the great shoe brands that I'm going to talk about. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, guys. So the first brand that I want to talk about is a brand called Keen. Keen is a good brand. I'm always on the lookout for it. It usually does pretty well. They make all different kinds of shoes. They make boots. They have different types of like hiking sandals. They seem to be more focused towards like an outdoorsy type of shoe. So a lot of their stuff is for like hiking, walking, trail walking, you know, those kind of things seems to be their main focus. So any of those types will sell pretty well, and they sell pretty consistently. They are definitely a good brand to be on the lookout for, and I'm always on the lookout for Keen. All right, next is a very similar brand to that. It is called Merrell. Same thing. It seems like they mainly focus on that outdoorsy type of shoe. So they make a lot of trail walking shoes, a lot of hiking boots, like sport type sandals, and things like that. So that's another good brand to be on the lookout for. And like I said, they're similar in nature to Keen. Keen and Merrell both focus on that same type of shoe. Next, of course, I'm going to talk about Nike. Nike is a great brand to be on the lookout for. Now, not all Nike is, you know, equal. I don't pick up every pair of Nike that I find. Nike in general is going to sell, and it's going to sell well. You know, mostly if you can find Nike and it's cheap, you probably could buy pretty much most Nike that you find and make some sort of profit off of it. However, you know, to limit that, some of the best offshoots of Nike to look for are things like Nike Shocks. Those do very well, and usually sell for a higher dollar amount than just your plain basic Nike. Nike Jordan, Air Jordans do very well. You just want to make sure that they're not fake, because Air Jordan is a type that tends to get faked a lot. So you want to make sure that you're picking up authentic Jordans. Nike Air Force One is another one that does really well. I'm pretty sure they probably also get faked as well because it's a higher value shoe. And so usually those are the kinds that are going to get faked. So again, Air Force Ones do well. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to making sure it's authentic. You can look up online different ways to authenticate these type of shoes to make sure that they are the real legit deal. I can't go into all the, ways to make sure they're real because that would take too long and too much of an explanation. But there are ways for you to go online and Google that to find out how to authenticate these shoes so that you know what you're picking up is authentic. Another good one is Nike ACG. These are typically going to be like a hiking boot or like a hiking sandal. This is more also focused towards that outdoorsy type. I'm pretty sure they don't even make ACG anymore, so they're usually also going to be vintage, I'm pretty sure. But that's another good one to be on the lookout for. Obviously, there's lots of other ones. There's Air Max. There's different things. So here's one thing I can tell you about how to determine if a Nike shoe is worth purchasing. So if you're not sure what style Nike you're looking at, on their inside tag, like where their like sizes and things like that, it also has like a code number. You can plug in that code number into eBay, into Google, if you can't find it on eBay that way, and you will find what model of shoe that is. And then that will also help you determine by then looking that up on eBay, seeing how it's selling, checking, how much it's selling for, your sell-through rate, and things like that, if it's a Nike worth picking up. So that's a good thing to know about Nike, is that it's pretty easy to look them up with that style code. So keep that in mind. All right, next up is Allen Edmonds. Allen Edmonds usually makes more of a men's dressy shoe, for men that need to dress up for whatever occasion, whether even just working, if they dress in a business suit. So it's a dress shoe is typically what Allen Edmonds makes. I feel like some Allen Edmonds still does really well. Again, they're not all equal. Allen Edmonds, I don't feel like does as well overall as it used to. I feel like overall it used to be a very, very good brand to pick up pretty much any of them. Now I feel like it's more, you want to make sure you look up that model and see what it's selling for. Because again, it's not all going to be something great. Sometimes they can take a long time. Shoes in general can be long tail because obviously, you're looking for the right buyer to come along and be looking for that specific shoe and in that specific size. But Allen Edmonds a lot of times does sit for me, but I'll still typically pick them up, especially if I look up that specific model and it's a really good one. All right, next is another pair of like running shoes. These are Hoka. Hoka is definitely a very good brand to be on the lookout for. Their running shoes do very well, and they sell for pretty decent money, considering, the resale market. So Hoka is another one to definitely be on the lookout for. I pick them up pretty much every time I find them, which unfortunately I do not find them that often. So I'm definitely always on the lookout for them and grab them anytime that I can find them and they're in decent shape. All right, next is one that actually surprised me when I first found out about it. And ever since, I do tend to look for them. And again, I feel like it's a little dependent on the specific model. But New Balance is another good one to look out for. Again, this is not all equal. Not every New Balance is going to sell or sell for a lot of money. So you always want to make sure you look up that specific model of New Balance and see what it is selling for. But it's something that I always do have my eye on. I always do look for New Balance and then just make sure to look them up and see if it's one that's worth picking up. Like I said, I was very surprised when I first found out about New Balance myself, because it was never a shoe that I knew would do well in the resale market, but it does. All right, next is another one that's kind of like the Allen Edmonds, because it used to do better than it does now. Although some are still worth picking up, it just depends. So again, very much more model specific. Make sure you look it up. Make sure it's worth picking up. But this next one is Cole Haan. Cole Haan also typically makes more like dress shoes. There are some other things that they make, because there are some sneakers that they make and things like that, some sandals for women. I've seen these type of things before. So Cole Haan does make other types of shoes, but I think mainly the focus is on more of the dress shoe for men. Again, it used to do better, I think, than it does now, and I would not just randomly pick up every type of Cole Haan that I see, but I will still definitely be on the lookout for them and look them up and see what they are selling for. The next one is also pretty specific. The next one is Echo. Echo mainly, I mean, they do make some like dress shoes and things like that, but I feel like the main focus for Echo would be, or at least what's most valuable and most desirable, is like their golf shoes. So Echo is more, like I said, a golf type brand. At least that's what the type that you want to be looking for. So again, Echo, not all equal. If you find Echo, make sure you look up that model and see what it's selling for. So again, I don't blindly grab every Echo that I see, but I will be on the lookout for them, and then I will look them up and see if they're worth picking up. All right, the next one is Asics. Again, it's going to be very much more specific. Asics, again, I feel like a lot of them, as an overall general thing, used to do better overall than it does now. Now it seems much more specific. I don't pick up every Asics that I see, especially women's Asics. Women's Asics typically tend to just sit for me. They sit and sit and sit, and they take forever. So I typically don't pick up, especially women's Asics, any longer. There are still some general Asics of men's that I will pick up, but again, I'm going to make sure that I look up that specific model and see if it's worth it. More importantly with Asics is they have a couple different specific types of shoes that are usually always worth picking up. And one of those is called Onitsuka Tiger. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but that one usually does very, very well. So if you ever find Asics Onitsuka Tiger, make sure that you pick that up. More than likely, that's going to be worth it. Another thing that I've found that I do really well with is Asics also has specific wrestling shoes. And those do very well for me. I've had a lot of luck selling Asics wrestling shoes. They always sell. They don't sell for a ton, but they always sell. I don't have those usually sit for, a very long time. And so those are also something that's worth picking up if you find them. I've even sold youth size wrestling Asics. So those also sell. So in this situation, kids shoes also do well. I don't buy too many kids shoes at all. I usually typically stay away from kids shoes because they just usually sit. They usually don't sell for a lot. and things like that. So typically I stay away from kids' shoes, but in the case of Asics wrestling shoes, I will still pick them up. I can usually find them super cheap as well, so that's helpful. All right, next up is Teva. Teva makes especially a lot of sandals. I don't know. I feel like I might have found something else by Teva before. I'm not sure if it was boots, but typically I find sandals. And Teva does really well, is also, like I said, again, do you want to pick them up if they cost you $10? Probably not. They don't sell for a ton, but they do sell pretty consistently. All right, next is, to me, a definite pickup pretty much every time I find them, unless they are completely destroyed, and that is Birkenstock. Birkenstock is an amazing brand with an amazing following. They mainly sell sandals as well, and it's hard not to be able to sell Birkenstock. That's probably the best way to put it. I mean, I've bought Birkenstock before that, if you guys have seen Birkenstocks, like the footbed of the sandal is like a cork. It's made out of like cork. So a lot of times what'll happen is people will just wear the heck out of these things. And then there'll be like these toe imprints and stuff like that, like in the cork bed. I have bought Birkenstocks like that and sold them still. And they sell for good money as well. So people will buy used Birkenstocks pretty much no matter what. Like I said, if they're completely destroyed, I will not pick them up. You know, if they're like falling apart, basically. But as long as they're not, you know, falling apart or anything like that, I will definitely pick up Birkenstocks because they will sell fairly quickly most of the time, and they will sell for pretty good money most of the time. So that's definitely something that I would suggest you be on the lookout for. Birkenstock is a wonderful brand. All right, next are Doc Martens. I'm pretty sure most people probably know about Doc Martens. They have a lot of shoes, and they also have a lot of boots. Those are, I think, the two main things that they make. Again, it's just another really good brand that does really well. And Doc Marten has been around for a very long time. So sometimes you can find, you know, vintage Doc Martens, and a lot of times those are going to sell for even more. But I mean, even more current Doc Martens are still going to do well. People love Doc Martens and think it's a great brand with a really good quality of craftsmanship. So people really like Doc Martens and will pay really good money for them. All right, next is another one that really surprised me. And now I buy and sell them all the time. That would be Crocs. Yes, Crocs. Crocs are a wonderful brand to buy and resell. Typically, you know, if you know anything about Crocs, probably the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, the typical clogs, you know, with the little holes in them and stuff like that. Those do well. They also have sandals and things like that. They have all kinds of different things, actually. Surprisingly, that Crocs makes. And any type of Crocs typically sells well for me. They do not sell for a ton of money, but if you can get them and get them cheap, they are definitely something to pick up. Again, you know, you don't want to buy anything that's completely destroyed or anything like that. Typically, you want your shoes to be in very good condition to be able to resell them. But Crocs are another one that most of the time you're going to sell them. Probably usually in the $20 to $25 range. That's where I usually find that they sell the best. Sometimes a little bit less and sometimes a little bit more, just depending. I mean, I definitely think that I've heard before of some people selling Crocs at a really high dollar amount if they were like some sort of limited special edition or something like that. So they could sell for more. Again, just always make sure you do your research before you list an item so that you're not overpricing or underpricing it. But yeah, Crocs do great for me, and I sell them all the time. And, you know, it's a good bread and butter item. All right, next is Vibram 5 Fingers. Now, these are a very strange looking shoe. Basically, you know, it has like different spots for all your toes. So weird to me. I don't feel like I would feel comfortable in a shoe like that, but like a lot of people love them. I guess it's supposed to give you more of a like barefoot feeling when you're running. I don't know, but yeah, these sell pretty well and pretty consistently as well. So I am always on the lookout for these because I know that they sell decently and for a decent amount of money as well. All right, next is Salomon. Salomon typically sells a lot of ski type equipment. So they have like ski boots and things like that. I do look out for those, but they also have shoes. A lot of times their shoes are more for still that type of activity, whether it's like, I'm not sure, but basically they have shoes and they have boots and they have things like that as well. And their shoes and boots also sell for a pretty good amount of money. If you ever do find their ski boots, even though that's not what we're really, I mean, that's kind of different than what we're talking about right now, but there's snow boots, ski boots, things like that. Those do very well and sell sometimes for a lot of money. So always be on the lookout for Salomon as well. All right, next is Chaco. Chaco typically sells sandals, and again, lots of people just think that they're a great sandal, and they will pay pretty good money for them. I haven't found Chaco a lot. I've heard some people saying that it doesn't do as well as it used to, and a lot of times sits for a long time. I'm not 100% sure since I haven't found them that many times. But I do know that they're a good brand with lots of people that like that brand, and so they're going to be looking for it, even in the resale market. So a lot of times the reason people look for used shoes, because you might find that strange that people want to buy used shoes, probably just because there could be probably lots of reasons. And one of those reasons would be, you know, that buying them used is still a lot cheaper than buying them brand new, especially with a lot of these brands. A lot of these brands are going to be really expensive to buy brand new. And so these people are able to get a good deal on the brands they like by buying them pre-owned. So yeah, I mean, the shoe selling is a great thing to do on platforms like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari. There's even some eBay sellers who sell only shoes. Like that is their whole entire store. As you guys know, I'm sure I sell a variety of like everything imaginable. I'm like one of those everything sellers, as they call it. But shoes are definitely one of my favorite things to buy and sell. And like I said, there's a lot of people that do really, really well with selling only shoes. Another YouTuber that comes to mind immediately that is an only shoe seller is Dealing with Dalton. I don't know if you guys have ever watched him. If you haven't, you should check out his channel because he is really knowledgeable about different shoes to buy and resell as well. Like I said, that's his whole entire business. That's all he does is sell shoes, and he does really well with it. All right, next is Timberland. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Timberland as well. It's a very well-known brand, and they're very good quality, especially their boots. And so again, they're also very expensive to buy brand new. So again, people can get a great deal buying these pre-owned. So Timberland does very well, especially of course their boots, but I've also sold a lot of their just plain shoes as well, because they have some that are more like dress shoes and just some other random types of shoes. But typically it's going to be their boots that are going to do the best. That's what they're best known for, I feel like, and so that's what most people are going to be looking for when it comes to Timberland. Again, you know, make sure the shoe's not completely destroyed. Make sure you look it up and see what it's selling for, just, you know, for peace of mind, if nothing else. I mean, like I said, typically Timberland's going to do very well, so, and especially their boots. So next is Brooks. Now, Brooks is another type of athletic shoe, running shoe. Brooks does very well. I typically am always on the lookout for Brooks and pick them up pretty much every time I find them. There are probably, you know, obviously, of course, some that do better than others, just like with everything else. But I typically will pick up Brooks every time I find them, especially if I'm not paying much for them. And again, I want to make sure that they're not completely destroyed. If they're completely destroyed, I'm going to go ahead and pass on them. But otherwise, I definitely pick up Brooks pretty much every time I find it. All right, next is something kind of similar to Timberland, which is Red Wing. Red Wing is another brand that does really, really well. Lots of people know what Red Wing is, and again, an expensive, and again, they make mostly boots, and again, an expensive boot to buy brand new, but if you can buy it pre-owned, it's actually still going to sell for quite a bit pre-owned, but you can save compared to what you would have paid brand new. So Red Wing, another very good quality, well-made shoe and boot, and so lots of people will look for Red Wing, so I always pick up Red Wing every time I find them. I have sold Red Wing boots for, I mean, anywhere between like $50, $75, and $100 even. So it just depends, again, on the specific model, exactly how much it's going to sell for, but they typically sell for a very decent amount of money. And they usually don't sit too long either. I mean, Red Wing usually seems to sell pretty quickly. All right, next is UGG. They mainly are known also for their boots, but this is more like their winter boots. Like the ones that are, you know, sheepskin lined and like the suede material on the outside. And that's mainly what I think people think of when they think of Uggs. Those do really well, those type of boots. But they also have some other things. I've sold different types of Uggs before. I've sold some sneakers that they have. I've sold some sandals that they have. So it's not only those boots, but I think typically that's what most people will be looking for is their boots. Because again, that's what they're most well known for. And those are probably going to do the best. But again, I'm always on the lookout for UGG. The only thing with UGG, especially those sheepskin lined suede leather type boots, a lot of times when I find them, like the suede on the outside has a lot of like stains or like water stains. I typically don't pick them up when I find that. I have read online before that there's ways to clean them and get rid of like those water stains and stuff. But I don't know how to go about doing that, and it's just not really something that I want to take the time doing. And honestly, I find UGG often enough that it's not something that I feel like I have to pick up the ones that are in that kind of condition. I'd rather just pick up the ones that I find that are in really good condition so that it's an easy flip and I don't have to do a lot of work to the shoe. All right, next we'll talk about Vans. Now, again, Vans are one of those that it's like certain kinds for sure. I don't pick up every Van that I see. I actually don't pick up a lot of Vans at all. But there are some Vans that can do really well, especially if they were like a special edition, limited edition. They have like some sort of like characters or something like that on them, you know. There's a lot of Vans collaborations that they do with different things, like different Disney and things like that. Those will typically do pretty well, but I normally wouldn't just buy like your basic Vans. Not that they wouldn't sell, because they probably will, but they're not going to sell for very much, and they'll probably take a really long time to sell also. So typically, if you're looking for Vans, you want to be on the lookout for like the special edition and limited edition kinds. All right, next we'll talk about Converse. This is another one that it's like some kinds of Converse do well. I think it's the same thing there. A lot of times they have like collaborations. You know, typically also with Converse, their high top Chuck Taylor is like the kind to be on the lookout for. Again, though, a lot of times even the Chuck Taylors can take a while. They can sit, and they won't necessarily sell for a lot. If you find vintage Chuck Taylors, a lot of times those can be better and sell for more and probably a little bit faster. But overall, again, Converse isn't something that I pick up every time I see it. It certainly is not. I've barely picked up any Converse, to be honest, because I don't find a lot of ones that are special. But I wanted to mention the Vans and the Converse because, again, there are certain ones that will do very well. So I didn't want to leave them out of this discussion, because I feel like they're important ones to know, to look out for those special ones that could be worth money. Again, just be vigilant about, you know, looking up that specific model and seeing what it's selling for and seeing, you know, if it's worth it. Okay, next are Skechers. Again, Skechers are one that is very much more model specific, type specific, however you want to look at that. Not every Skechers is going to do well. And honestly, I know Skechers was kind of another one that did surprise me, because I really wouldn't have thought Skechers would be a great brand to resell. However, some of them do well. I do pick up some Skechers sometimes. It just depends, again, on the model and things like that. I'll typically look them up, see if they're worth picking up. I know that in the past, the Skechers shape-ups did really well, but anymore, I even seem to notice that a lot of times those sit for me. So I'm guessing that they don't even do as well either as they used to. Sometimes if you can find Skechers, like vintage Skechers that are more in like a Y2K style, if you use those keywords in your title, the Y2K, that can help them sell also. There's certain like sandals that I've bought before that were like a Y2K style, and those have done pretty well for me. So again, just make sure you look it up and see if it's worth picking up. Next is Salvatore Ferragamo. That is a very high-end brand, and if you find other things in Salvatore Ferragamo, that's usually going to do very well also. I've sold a lot of different things from Ferragamo, like a lot of their neckties in the past, I've sold for really good money. But Salvatore Ferragamo shoes are a very high-end shoe, and they sell for a lot of money on the resale market. I've sold Ferragamos from like $50 to like $100. I think I've even sold some men's Ferragamo before that were like men's dress shoes for over $100. So typically they're usually dress shoes, men's dress shoes, women's dress shoes, and typically they're going to sell for a good amount of money. So be on the lookout for those. You find Ferragamo, most likely you should probably just go ahead and pick it up. Like I said, as long as it's not ridiculously expensive. Alright, and the last shoe brand that we're going to go over today is Allbirds. Allbirds are another type of like athletic shoe or running shoe. This is another one that I've heard is not doing as well anymore as it used to. I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard that from some other resellers talking about it. Allbirds is kind of a newer brand to me. I haven't known about it that long, and so I've only found it a few times. But typically I'm always still going to be on the lookout for Allbirds personally, and so that's up to you if you want to look for them also. Maybe do some research again, look up the model, see how it's selling. but that's something I'll typically always be on the lookout for. Alright guys, well that's all the shoe brands that we're going to go over for today. Like I said, there will be a part 2 video coming up soon. Like I said, I just didn't want to make this video too long. I feel like it's already a really long video. And so if I tried to go over the rest of the shoe brands I wanted to go over, it would be even longer. So, yeah, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It'll help this video, it'll help more people be able to see the video, and it'll help my channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. That way you'll be notified when I post new content, like that part 2 that's going to be coming very soon. And I guess that's about it for today, guys. So until next time, keep on hunting for that hidden treasure.